You asked, I answered. So here we go. Let's fire this up. For those of us who experience acid reflux, what are some effective natural approaches to manage it or eliminate it? Generally, acid reflux is actually caused by, for new mothers experience postpartum brain fog and mood shifts. What lifestyle supplementation approaches can help rebalance hormones and alleviate these symptoms? Can a colonoscopy disrupt gut health? Are there potential long-term impacts of statin use that people should be aware of? For some with an egg allergy looking to maintain nutrient-rich diets, what are some excellent high-protein replacements for eggs? Other high-protein replacements include whole foods. I prefer. What are some effective long-term approaches to recover from mold or mycotoxin exposure and detoxify the body safely? The number one thing you have to do is Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Human Podcast. I'm your host, human biologist Gary Brecka. You asked, I listened, and so this is your chance to have the questions you submitted to my team at the Ultimate Human answered right here on this podcast. So let's get into it. For those of us who experience acid reflux, especially triggered by fatty foods or tomatoes, what are some effective natural approaches to manage it or eliminate it? Well, I would say stop eating fatty foods or tomatoes. But let's take it a step further. Very often when we actually eat highly acidic foods like tomatoes and other acidic compounds, if you have acid reflux, this can significantly aggravate it. It's important to back up and understand what acid reflux really is. It is usually a deficiency in the acid concentration, not too much acid. So remember, there's a pH scale, which stands for potential hydrogen. As you get higher on that scale, you get more alkaline, less acidic. As you get lower on the scale, you get more acidic and less alkaline. The sphincter muscle that's at the top of your stomach that separates your esophagus from your stomach is called the cardiac sphincter. Cardiac because it sits right outside the heart. And when that sphincter muscle opens, it's opening in response to more alkalinity. It closes in response to increased acidity. So as the pH drops in the stomach, that muscle constricts. As the pH rises, that muscle relaxes. So the opposite of what you think is happening. Generally, acid reflux, although it can be caused from other things, but a lot of gastroesophageal reflux disease or acid reflux is actually caused by too little stomach acid. So there's something called betaine hydrochloride. Thorne makes it. There are bundles that you can buy from Thorne and other manufacturers that will actually help to concentrate the acid in your stomach so that the pH level drops and you can hopefully stop experiencing acid reflux. If you've been on proton pump inhibitors or acid blockers like Tums, for prolonged periods of time, you want to titrate off of these things slowly, but make it a goal to get off of PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, or acid blocking agents that you're using to control acid reflux. Can a colonoscopy or related procedures disrupt gut health? And what procedures can one take to minimize any adverse effects? Again, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. I am not a big fan of colonoscopies because they flush the bowel of a lot of the bacteria that you have. Very often people that have been diagnosed with Crohn's go in for colonoscopies and they actually have bowel flushes done, and the bowel flushes all of the beneficial bacteria out of the gut. I would follow the advice of your gastrointestinal specialist. However, one of the best things that we can do to minimize the effects of a colonoscopy would be to be diligent about repopulating the gut post-procedure. This would include taking a very healthy probiotic, or also Dr. Gundry, who is a cardiologist turned functional medicine practitioner. He makes one called BioComplete 3. I'm a big fan of that. No, I'm not an affiliate with that company. I have no financial arrangement with him. I'm just a big fan of his BioComplete 3. I also believe in the probiotic that I make because it actually protects the bacteria from the stomach acid and opens in an alkaline environment. But repopulating the gut is not just as simple as taking probiotics. You want to also take what's called prebiotics. These are the food that bacteria eat. You may have heard of prebiotics and probiotics. Probiotics are the bacteria themselves. Prebiotics are the food that the bacteria feed on. The best source of prebiotics, in my opinion, are fermented vegetables, things like fermented kimchi or fermented sauerkraut, pickled vegetables, or even kefir. The reason why these are so good is because they not only bring probiotics with them, but they also bring prebiotic fiber, insoluble fiber, which actually converts into something called free fatty acids, which is excellent for inflammation. Okay, so let's move to the next question, which was, what are some effective long-term approaches to recover from mold or mycotoxin exposure and detoxify the body safely? This is an excellent question. So, three big things that you need to do with mold. The number one is the absolute most important. If you're found to have mold or mycotoxicity on a blood test or some other kind of test, the number one thing you have to do is get out of the environment with mold. You will never heal or detoxify from mold or mycotoxin poisoning while you are still in the house that got you the mold toxicity in the first place. The second thing I would do, and I sell a very good one on my site, I'm not just trying to sell you an air filter, but we sell an air filter that goes down to 0.3 microns right on the Ultimate Human. And it also has an ozone setting. And the reason why I like ozone with mold and mycotoxin poisoning is that you filter the air down to very, very, very small microns to take the mold spores and the mycotoxins out of the air, as well as some viruses, dust particles, and other contaminants that are in our air, aluminum fragments and what have you. But the thing that you can do when you leave the room is you can actually run an ozone setting, and ozone gas will actually kill mold on the back of your drywall. It can even disinfect your air supply. But number one thing to do is, if you are still in the home or the place, the condo that got you the mold exposure, you have to move out of that location and get to a place that's been certified to be mold free. Number two, you should take a binder. There are several binders that are very good for mold toxicity, certain zeolite binders, charcoal binders. A good friend of mine, Dr. Daryl Geoffrey, makes an excellent binder at Kick Your Acid. He makes a binder that is specific for mold toxicity that I am a huge fan of. I actually use his coffee creamers too, but that would be my second recommendation. And the third would be that ozone, either intravenous ozone, EBU ozone, or 10-pass ozone, as well as transdermal ozone, by using something called a HOCAT machine. HOCAT, HOCATT, stands for hyperthermic ozone carbonic acid transdermal therapy. That's a fancy way of saying a box that steams your body up and releases ozone gas through the skin and allows for the slow detoxification of mold and mycotoxins. There's another product called Metal and Chemical Free Cleanse. It's by Dr. Minkoff at Body Health, which I think is a sublingual, which is also good for mold, mycotoxins, metals, and other contaminants. And then the final thing that you want to do is retest every 3 months for your mold or mycotoxin levels to see if they are decreasing. Again, if you don't get out of the mold or mycotoxin environment, there will be zero chance you will be able to detoxify from those compounds. The next one was, are there potential long-term impacts of statin use that people should be aware of, especially concerning cholesterol and overall metabolic health? Absolutely. Cholesterol is a construction material. It's not a fuel source. We use it to build cell walls, cell membranes. We use it to make vitamin D3, cholecalciferol, which we make from sunlight and cholesterol. So cholesterol very often gets a bad rap, and it is the oxidation of the cholesterol that causes the problem. Very often, statins have been linked to early onset of some forms of cognitive decline. I did an excellent podcast with Dr. Asim Malhotra, Malhotra. He is a cardiologist from Europe. He's got a number of published articles in the British Medical Journal. He's a very credentialed cardiologist, and I would suggest that you watch that podcast. We go deep, deep, deep down the rabbit hole of the long-term impacts of statin use and making you aware of what the risks are, and especially concerning cholesterol. For some with an egg allergy looking to maintain nutrient-rich diets, what are some excellent high-protein replacements for eggs? Well, number one for me would be Perfect Aminos. It is a blend of the 8 essential amino acids that's non-caloric, and it's equivalent to 30 grams of protein, and it's 99% absorbable. Another one of my favorite, believe it or not, would be shelled hemp seeds. For every single gram of carbohydrate, they have 10 grams of protein and are packed with heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Other high-protein replacements include whole foods. I prefer grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chickens, or a wild-caught fish. Those would be my next 3 go-to choices. Remember, you can also get high protein in areas where you might not be looking for it. Things like cottage cheeses are excellent sources of high-quality protein. Even raw yogurts are excellent sources. Raw A2 full-fat yogurts are great sources of protein. Given the chronic nature of Lyme disease, what is a comprehensive strategy to support recovery and manage symptoms effectively? The first thing you got to do is you've got to improve your immune system. So many people that are on immunosuppressants or have other chronic infections end up with long-term viral pathogens. Remember, a lot of times the viruses that we have are not viruses that we caught. They're viruses that we've always had. Like mono comes back as Epstein-Barr. Chickenpox comes back as shingles. So what we want to do is we want to support our immune system. One of my favorite things to do to support the immune system is to take resveratrol. I take a form called resveratrol. Make sure you do a genetic test so your elimination pathways are working well, especially your glutathione detoxification pathways. Regular intravenous therapy with high-dose vitamin C has been shown to have a profound effect on Lyme recovery. Also, managing, healing, sealing, and repairing your gut so that your immune system is not involved in a multi-front war while it's also trying to kill viral pathogens. There's no magic bullet for Lyme disease, but a comprehensive strategy to boost the immune system and to attack the virus is the best way to go. For someone with gastro-paralysis dependent on long-term antibiotics, what steps might help them taper off medication safely while supporting gut healing? Well, if the gastroparalysis caused you to go on antibiotics, then it depends on how long this gastroparesis lasts. Currently unaware of people having gastroparesis that lasts a lifetime without also having to have surgery to resect that area of the bowel. This isn't a core competency of mine, but I would absolutely encourage you to do everything to make sure that you have healthy gastrointestinal function. So things like methylfolate, which are good for your gastric motility. Also pre and probiotics, eating foods that have prebiotics like your fermented vegetables, probiotics that you can take orally, a good brand of probiotics like Dr. Gundry's BioComplete 3, and then also things like colostrum. I make a colostrum. There's a brand called Amra that makes a great colostrum. If you can actually get raw colostrum from the farmer's market, that's even better. I would be constantly doing things to heal and seal and repair the gut. I might also think about taking a supplement called Toxi Prevent, lower GI, which is a great binder to help you get inflammatory compounds out of the gut. What are the most effective peptides for naturally raising testosterone levels, and how can one use these safely? Well, the best way to use them is to have a licensed physician prescribe them for you. So find a functional medicine physician that's actually got some experience in peptides and hormones and talk to them about peptides that you have read about or have heard about. So peptides that boost testosterone are things like gonadorelin, which is a peptide that mimics the action of the luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormones that are released from the pituitary to stimulate testosterone production. There are other peptides that are good for testosterone, even some that are outside the peptide category, like Tonkat Ali. I would have a full-blown hormone panel done to see if you're deficient in the raw materials that build hormone testosterone, like a deficiency in DHEA. But if you have a good licensed physician, regenerative medicine practitioner, someone that understands how to read a hormone panel, they can usually send you down the right road for peptides. For new mothers experience postpartum brain fog, hyperhidrosis, and mood shifts, what lifestyle supplementation approaches can help rebalance hormones and alleviate these symptoms? Number one, take a prenatal that is, and you can take prenatals after the child is born, take a prenatal with methylated multivitamin, meaning that has methylated nutrients in it. And by all means, stop folic acid. Get folic acid out of your diet, which are fortified or enriched foods. Stop the folic acid, begin a methylated multivitamin test, and supplement for deficiency based on your genetic results. All right, that rounded up. Wow, that was great. I hope that was enjoyable for you guys. Please continue to submit your questions. I want to be as responsive as I possibly can. I'm here to serve you guys. So if you tell me what topics are on your mind, where there's controversy you'd like me to clear up, or what topics you'd like to see further research or even experts on my podcast to break the ice, I'm happy to do that for you. Submit your questions to info@theultimatehuman.com. We'll consolidate those questions and we will get back to you with a podcast short to answer them. And until later, it's just science.